Hello Acolytes! Welcome to this Acolyte training video. We hope that through the course of it, some of the questions that you have can be answered so that you don't have to be nervous. It's a wonderful thing you're doing, and I'm very glad that you're one of our Acolytes. In this room, we call it the sacristy, we have a few instruments that you need. One is this Acolyte thing itself called a lighter. And amazingly, it has this little slide gizmo on it that gives you more wick if you need it. Sometime before worship, you want to come and find the lighter. Usually it's out here on the counter, but if not, take a look in some of the drawers or ask one of us for help finding one. Also, you're going to want to get a robe, and they are all in here of various sizes, so pick one that goes somewhere between your knees and your ankles. You don't want it too long so that you trip. Now we're going to be heading out to get going on the way out. See what happens next. So one of the primary questions people are going to ask is, when do I come out? Well, the moral of the story is, after I do those opening announcements, I invite people to be seated for a moment of preparation for worship, and then I announce the opening hymn. Once you hear that, the opening hymn is, whatever the number is, that's when you light the light and you come on out. Now to walk with this, you want to walk with the bell down and the flame up. Because if you go the opposite direction, that flame is going to go like gangbusters. You don't need that. And you can walk at a nice, normal, comfortable pace. You don't have to hurry, but you also don't need to go so cotton picking slow that people wonder if you're ever going to get there. So when you get to the front, when you get right before the steps themselves, pause just a second. That's in respect for God. Then you step up, and it doesn't matter which of the candles you light first. If there isn't Advent going on with all kinds of extra candles, start, I say, with this one. Now here's the key to success. Notice how before we were walking with it this way. Now you turn it over, and you kick the back end up as high as your arms can get it, because it puts the wick right on the candle flame. So you see how that works? Then you turn it back, come over, do the same thing over here. Again, the back end up as high as you can. If you needed to, your finger is right there so that you can slide this up higher. See how sometimes the flame looks like it's going to go out. Just give it more with your thumb. So again, the key is by having your hand up close to where this is, you've got control of that thing and you can guide it really nicely. So then you're going to put the flame out, and all you have to do is to slide it down. But then don't leave it in there, slide it back up, otherwise wax sticks in here. So after you've put that out and you head on over to this spot, there's a little hook here that you're going to just put the lighter on, and you're done with part one. You just go and stand here at the acolyte spot, sing with the congregation, go for it. That's all part one, you're done. Yay! So part two comes at the time of the offering. The ushers receive the whole offering, and when they're bringing it forward, call it with the full plates, you go stand in the center of the aisle, they'll hand them to you. You walk the offering plates over here. If there's communion, you put it on the bottom shelf. If there's no communion, you can leave it on top. That's part two. Part three is communion. Now on Saturday nights, you don't have to do anything for communion except receive communion yourself. When there's communion on Sunday morning, the people who come to serve communion are going to come and stand near you. You join them. I'm going to come by, the other servers are going to come by to serve the servers. You're included in that. But then I'm going to hand you an empty tray, regardless of how many servers there are, and you're going to come and pick up the empties from the people who are also receiving communion with you. Whether or not you keep collecting empties from the whole congregation depends on how many people show up to help serve. That's the end of part three. So at the very end of worship, you're going to get this thing back from the little hook and you're going to come up here. And when you do, you're going to put the flame out. You don't need to squish it. Just put it down part way and count to 2, and it'll go out. That saves the next acolyte because if you smoosh it down, the poor acolyte's going to have a hard time lighting that thing. Before you put out the last candle, you relight this. And then, once again, just count 1, 2 to yourself, and off we go. When do you do this? You do this after the lay liturgists and the pastors have come down here and exited themselves. It's during the singing of the last hymn. And once again, you're walking in a nice, gentle path out. Why do we relight this? To bring the light of Christ out into the world. Now we're going to show you where we go in the sacristy to put this away, and you can hang up your robe and all of that at the very end, of course. But one last thing. That has to do with baptisms. If you are serving the day that we have a baptism, we will give you special instructions that day, rather than to confuse you with that now on this video. So when you get back here into the sacristy, this wonderful little room, obviously you put the flame out, you put the wick back up, and it goes in its handy little holder right there, ready for the next acolyte's use. Thanks again for being an acolyte. Don't hesitate to ask any questions. Thanks.